Many times, figures, activities, or religious spaces make us feel as if we were in a place where something bad could not happen. Well, something bad related to the paranormal. That everything is sacred and that no form of negative energy could manifest or scare us. But what happens when we fall into the irony that it is precisely those figures, activities, or spaces that make us have a bad time, when this environment begins to stay further and further away from being a safe place for us in that respect? Many years ago, when I was younger and attended the youth groups of the church, I never forgot any detail of what happened. In those groups, I met a coordinator who was very friendly and charismatic with everyone. I can't say his name, so let's call him Sergio. He passed the time telling us anecdotes of the missions he went to different distant municipalities, and to those he was going to help people. He always entertained us with that, and I, deep down, knew that he also told them so that we could follow his example. On one occasion, there was a retreat, and everything was fine during that day. We were already a little more relaxed when night fell. We talked around a fire that we had set up in the courtyard of the church. We sang, played guitar, and all those things that generated a very pleasant and agreeable atmosphere to conclude that day of activities. When most of my colleagues had already gone to sleep, we who were still awake began to pressure Sergio to tell us one of his many stories. And one of my colleagues, I remember, suggested that it be a horror one. To which he, not so convinced at first, told us that he was fine, but that we were not going to be scared or anything, and the truth is that he changed his expression a little when he accepted, and told us that it was something that he had not told anyone, and that if we told someone, we would not say names, place, or anything. Serious, he began to tell us that a long time ago Sergio was part of a mission in which they were in charge of taking supplies to a certain municipality of scarce resources. That place was a little close to the mountains. They would leave on a Saturday to arrive on Sunday at a very early hour and thus take advantage of the whole day, reporting in the parish with the priest in charge and starting with the activities that they usually did on those missions, such as Mass, distributing food, living with the people of the town, etc. For logistics reasons that at that time were not very clear to Sergio, they changed their date and left the day before, on a Friday. They had no way of telling the parish priest that they would arrive one day before expected, this due to the limited communication of that place, so well, they would see how to fix things when they arrived. They did not believe that it would be much problem. After a few hours of traveling by bus, they finally arrived in the town, which was very quiet. It was, as he described it to us, like a common and ordinary town. Beautiful, really. As they entered the town a little more, they went straight to the parish house first of all to find the priest and be able to tell him what had happened with the dates. But they did not find him there. They decided then to finish getting all the things off the bus and start arranging everything for the activities and the later coexistence. Some locals told the missionaries that the priest had probably gone out to the mountains for a walk, which would not take long to arrive, as they said it was a habit that he had and enjoyed doing from time to time. So the subject was left there. The afternoon came, and by then they had everything ready, but there was no sign of the priest, neither in the parish house nor in the church, so a couple of missionaries took care of looking for him around the town, and the rest took care of starting with the activities, because even if the priest was not present, they had to continue with everything to take advantage of the time. The night was already falling, and the missionaries began to worry, because they thought that something had happened to the priest, but they had no choice but to wait and be attentive. Sergio, along with 3 more missionaries, went to the priest's room after they were told where they could find it, to see if there was something there, some writing, agenda or something that could tell them where he was exactly or when he would return. But when he got to his bedroom, everything was completely in order. Nothing there served to guide him. His simple bed, some appliances, his folded and organized clothes, and things from the church. But one of the companions who was with Sergio decided to get too involved. He crouched in front of the bed, and when he looked under it, he found a pentagram drawn in red on the floor. He told them, and immediately Sergio and his other companion raised the bed to check it themselves. Indeed, it was a pentagram drawn under the priest's bed. When they saw this, they got scared, but curiosity was more important. So they opened the priest's wardrobe, and when they opened it, they found in that seemingly innocent room a black Bible in Latin, with demonic illustrations, red candles, black amulets with strange symbols that they did not recognize, and small figures of entities that, for nothing, were reassuring. When they saw this, they closed everything and ran out of that room, reaching the chapel with the rest of the missionaries, telling them everything they had found. So they dedicated themselves to inspecting the place among all, without setting up, at least for now, a scandal. In the sacristy, they found hidden under other garments, black-colored clothes of trade. Others had satanic figures embroidered, in addition to some portraits of demonic entities, all impeccable and very well cared for. In the sanctuary, they found remains of black chickens and other remains of small animals inside a black bag. And the strange thing is that they did not smell rotten, as anyone else would expect to find this. And so the macabre findings grew in that place. And Sergio told us that the most disturbing thing for him was when they arrived at the presbytery, and under the altar they discovered a black ceremonial cross, where the figure of Jesus was upside down, and his face was covered with a black cloth. The face of that figure had an expression that, Sergio said when they moved it to be able to see it, everyone was frozen, because it had a smile of the most horrible. And after one of the companions ran out to see this, everyone could react and left everything there and ran out of there quickly. The missionaries, together with Sergio, told everything to some parishioners, hoping that they could give them an explanation of all that. But they, when they heard this, were as surprised and confused as the missionaries, that the answer was clear in their expression. They didn't know all this either. Sergio, along with everyone else, decided to spend the night in the parish house to see if they could see the priest arrive at any time, but that priest never appeared again in that place. Sergio says he thinks someone, in a clandestine way, told the priest that he had been discovered, and that is why he had decided never to return. When they returned to the city, with a bad feeling and taste in the mouth of that people, the missionaries told everything to the dioceses in charge, but the ecclesiastical authorities only asked them not to comment on the matter, and much less, give details of the place in which they were in charge of cleaning up that disaster. That night I realized that I was not the only one who could not sleep after that story, and not out of fear about that, but because the details in the description about the place where it happened coincided a lot with the place where we were that night. After that, there was a lot of time where I distrusted the whole issue of the church, because one does not really know what they hide under the altars that are in the sight of all, for example. A while later my parents and I moved, so I left the group of missions and never saw Sergio or any friend of that group again. My story was only a few months ago. At that time, I was part of one of those typical religious groups of young people in my country, and thanks to it, I was able to travel a lot and know many places. On one of those trips, we were on one occasion in one of the camps which were in the forest. We were already talking during the night around a campfire. Everything was going very quiet and very fun. We were talking about the future of the group, what we would do for the next trip, or what changes we expected for the activities of the next destinations. And so for a very good while. I remember that it was only 2 in the morning when we all decided to go to sleep. But before that, a colleague needed to go to the bathroom, so he told us that he would go close to some trees that were behind some bushes where he could have some privacy, and that he would come back soon. Less than a minute passed, and I was turning off the fire when our colleague ran out of the bushes. He said there was someone standing in the distance watching us, and instantly, we couldn't doubt it. He had come out of the bushes with his pants untied, so at first we didn't think it was a joke. Together with 3 friends, we went quickly behind the trees where he told us, and we walked down a stretch with lanterns in hand, but we didn't find or hear anything strange. We returned and told him that we had not found anything, but he still looked scared, So to calm his nerves, in an attempt at something bad, we took a photo of him making fun of how scared he looked, to see if, bothering him as we used to play, he was scared. It went on for a while more during that night, where everything was calmer, so we could sleep without a problem, including him. The next morning, a friend showed me the photo because we hadn't been able to see it well the night before. We laughed at him for seeing it and remembering his expression, but we saw that in the background, with the little light that the moon gave that night in a part a little clear by the trees, we could see the figure of a person from afar, but it looked very small and not by distance but by height. When leaving the tent with my friend to show the photo to the others, we realized that we were the first to wake up, and around the camping houses there were what seemed to be dolls made with a very rare material. They looked like branches, threads, and fabric. There were approximately 5 of them all over the floor. I could say that after I lived through all of that and searched for those figures, they seemed to be the ones they used for voodoo. Upon seeing this, my partner and I ran to the area where our bosses camped, so to speak, which was not far from where we were. When we told them, they came with us. And seeing all this, they told us to pick up things quickly. Well, my friend also told them about the photograph. And one of the bosses said he had also seen that last night, but that he swore he had been in a dream. Having everything ready, and as we still had to stay for one more night because the transport could not pass through us, our bosses took us to the house of a couple of old people who lived in a cabin nearby. Upon arriving at the cabin, they received us very kindly and let us settle in their patio because there was not much space for everyone inside that cabin. The gentleman from the cabin accompanied us for a very long time during the night, sitting with us at the campfire, and when we touched the subject, something that we had to do yes or yes, we told him everything we had seen. And he, somewhat calm, told us that it was normal to see that in that part of the forest, that is why he preferred not to go in those directions, and that he didn't come here either. He told us that a couple of years ago that part of the forest was used by a sect that the Lord believes was satanic. In that part of the forest, they used to leave bodies and figures like the ones we saw in the morning. He told us that supposedly those things came out alone, because it was to scare off the intruders and not get them where they did not care, and he told us that that little man we had seen had also seen him a couple of times, but he saw him walking in that part of the forest, and he believes that all that is only the result of the work they did in that place, and that although they no longer used those lands for those things, all that had been kept watching and taking care of the forest, and that we were very lucky that it had not gone beyond the scare. Of course, that was my last trip with them,